I moved to a quiet coastal town in Oregon just a few weeks ago. I was a freelance graphic designer looking to escape my chaotic life. I thought a fresh start and beautiful views from my bungalow would help me find my creativity again. It felt nice at first. On my second night, I settled into my routine. I was working late, the room dim from my laptop. That's when I heard a soft tapping sound coming from the attic. I figured it was just the house settling, or maybe a branch. The stillness felt comforting. But the next night, I finished my work and climbed into bed. The tapping was back, louder this time and more insistent. I thought maybe I was just imagining things. I didn't want to get freaked out over nothing, so I rolled over and tried to sleep. But my heart felt heavier, and I couldn't shake that feeling something wasn't right. Days passed, and the tapping became a pattern. It happened every time I was alone. I tried to focus on my work, but found myself glancing up at the attic door, half expecting it to open. I noticed some odd things, too. The attic light would flicker, sometimes when I knew the electricity was fine. I thought I saw a shadow behind the window once, but maybe it was just my tired eyes. One evening, I returned from a walk on the beach, feeling warm sun on my skin. I thought the fresh air would clear my mind. Then I heard it again, the tapping, now louder and almost rhythmic. My stomach dropped. I glanced at the attic, unsure of what to do. I wrapped my arms around myself, hesitating before deciding to investigate. I climbed the stairs slowly, each creak under my feet making me anxious. My heart raced. Reaching the door at the top, I paused again, half expecting something to jump out. Holding my breath, I turned the knob and opened it. The attic was dark, only lit by a small cracked window. I stepped inside and froze. It felt wrong. The tapping had stopped, and it was eerily quiet. I strained my eyes, looking for whatever made that noise, but all I saw were dusty old boxes against the wall. Then I saw it. A shadow darted in my peripheral vision. I spun around, adrenaline rushing through me. "Hello?" I called out. My voice echoed back, cold and empty. A flash of fear gripped me. I wasn't sure what to expect, but chills crawled down my spine. Suddenly, I heard it again. A soft voice whispered from the darkness. "Help me." I stumbled back, crashing into a box that tumbled over. I turned to run, thinking I saw movement in the corner of the room, and then everything went black. What happened next? I still don't know. I moved here to find peace, but instead I found something else entirely, and I can't shake the feeling it's still there, waiting. I woke up on the attic floor, disoriented and breathing heavily. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust to the dim light filtering through the cracked window. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to piece together what had just happened.
The damp, musty air clung to me, and the panic from moments ago clenched at my throat. I scrambled to my feet and quickly made my way to the attic door. My heart raced with every creak of the old wood beneath me. I needed to get out of there. I flung the door open and staggered into the hallway, falling against the wall, desperate to catch my breath. What was that voice? I shook my head, trying to dismiss it, but I couldn't. It was etched into my memory, haunting and desperate. I rushed downstairs and grabbed my phone, hoping the bright screen would somehow ground me. I texted my best friend, desperate for comfort. "Something weird happened. Need to talk." As I waited for her response, I tried to make sense of it all. I couldn't stay in that house. I made my way into the kitchen to pour myself a glass of water. My hands trembled as I filled the glass, splashing water on my shirt. The sinking feeling returned. Then I heard it. The tapping, soft and persistent, coming from the attic again. I froze, gripping the counter until my knuckles turned white. It couldn't be. This time, I felt an urge to confront whatever was happening, but fear held me in place. I had barely escaped the last encounter. But part of me felt a pull, an unusual curiosity. I set the glass down and took a deep breath. I climbed back up the stairs, my heart pounding with each step. Every creak of the stairs echoed in the silence, and I felt a chill wash over me. The door to the attic stood cracked open, just as I had left it. I remembered the shadow, the voice. "Help me." The words replayed in my mind. I reached the top and hesitated. This time, I pushed open the door fully and stepped inside once more. The atmosphere felt heavy, laden with expectancy. I squinted into the shadows, trying to see through the familiar darkness. That's when I saw it, a glimmering object half buried in the corner, catching the light just right. My heart raced again, but I felt a strange compulsion to move closer. As I approached, I noticed it was an old locket, its metal dulled by age. It looked out of place amidst the dusty boxes. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. The moment I touched it, the air seemed to hum, electrifying, sending a jolt through me. I lifted the locket, flipping it open. Inside was a faded picture of a young woman. Her eyes seemed to look right through me, filled with an emotion I couldn't quite grasp. A wave of sadness washed over me, heavy and crushing. In that moment, the tapping escalated into frantic knocks, resonating in the silence. Panic surged, and I dropped the locket. It clattered against the floor, echoing against the walls. Instinctively, I turned to flee, but then the door slammed shut behind me. Now trapped, my breath came in sharp gasps. I pressed my back against the wall, battling the urge to scream. I was not alone anymore, and whatever was in that attic felt closer than ever. I spun around, heart racing, searching for the source of the sudden movement.
The shadows in the attic seemed to close in on me, pressing against my skin. My mind raced, alternating between rational thoughts and overwhelming panic. I couldn't stay locked in here. I had to find a way. First, I rattled the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if the door was sealed shut, holding me captive. I pounded on it, shouting for help, though a part of me recognized the futility. The knocking resumed, now layered with something else, a soft whisper beneath it. "Help me, please." My thoughts sparked to life again, the voice familiar yet foreign. There was an urgency, a heart-wrenching plea that echoed in the confines of my mind. I backed away from the door and cautiously peered deeper into the attic. My eyes caught the outline of the boxes piled high, obscuring what lay beyond. The whisper silenced the pounding in my chest, replaced by an unsettling curiosity.
"Who are you?"
I stammered into the gloom, hoping for a response. Silence enveloped me. I took a tentative step forward, feeling the floorboards shift under my weight. The whisper returned, gentle but insistent.
"You found it."
The locket, the connection hit me like a shockwave. I had to return to it. I felt the pull again, almost magnetic, urging me toward the corner where I had dropped it. As I drew closer, the atmosphere shifted. The air thickened, wrapping around me as if trying to hold me back. I reached down, fingers searching for the cold metal. When I finally found it, I realized I wasn't alone. The shadows shifted, morphing into a figure that seemed to take shape just at the edge of my vision. I felt them watching me, waiting, my breath hitched in my throat. I forced myself to look. The figure materialized, a translucent image of the young woman from the locket. She hovered, dressed in the same vintage clothing, her mouth moving without sound. Her eyes were wide, pleading. "Please," she mouthed, a tear slipping down her cheek. I felt an overwhelming empathy wash over me, but fear nagged at the edges of my consciousness. Why couldn't she speak? What happened to her? "Tell me what you need," I shouted, frustration breaking through my fear. The air hummed again in response, vibrating with energy, but instead of an answer, the attic descended into silence, blocking out everything except the sound of my own panicked breathing. Then I noticed it. The reflection of the locket was no longer a still image. The woman's features twisted into a smile. The sudden calm in her expression made my heart lurch. I could sense something dark creeping through the room, surrounding us, and all it took was a glance back at the door to know I was still trapped. "Get out!" A voice screamed out of the shadows, raw and desperate. A violent gust swept through the attic, knocking over boxes and sending dust spiraling. I stumbled backward, the locket clutched in my hand. The whole world tilted as darkness surged forth from every corner, reaching for me.
I felt the pull of the shadows as they moved closer, swallowing the light. The whisper echoed once more, but it was no longer soft and inviting. It was a warning. "Run!" That word sent adrenaline surging through me. I didn't need to think twice. I dashed toward the door, desperately fumbling with the handle, praying it would give way. The chaos behind me grew louder, filling the attic with an urgency I could not ignore. But as I pushed, the door remained shut. The shadows laughed at my efforts. I was about to lose hope when I remembered the hidden latch. There had to be a way out. I turned to face the swirling darkness again, the ethereal figure fading from view. Just as I caught a glimpse of the latch, I felt icy fingers brush against my arm. My instincts kicked in, and I yanked the latch down, forcing the door open to the unknown. And then everything went dark. I jolted awake, heart hammering against my ribcage. It felt like I'd slipped into another world. The darkness wasn't as thick as before, but it was still unsettling. I scanned the room, my breath shaky.
I was no longer in the attic. The walls were no longer slanted, and the creaking floorboards were gone. Instead, I found myself in a narrow hallway lit by flickering lights overhead. "Where am I?" I whispered, disoriented. The last thing I remembered was the door leading into the shadows. Now I was trapped in this unfamiliar space. I pushed myself up, brushing dust off my clothes. My fingers instinctively clutched the locket, still wrapped tightly in my palm. I took a tentative step forward. The hallway was empty and unnaturally quiet, save for the rhythmic buzzing of the lights. This wasn't the refuge I hoped for. A chill raced down my spine as I recalled the figure in the attic, the young woman, her silent cries. Then I noticed a door at the end of the hall, slightly ajar. It beckoned to me like a siren's call, but every nerve screamed at me to be cautious. What if it led to more darkness? Yet I couldn't stay here. Something urged me to move. I approached the door. It creaked open when I nudged it, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Fragments of old furniture scattered throughout suggested a once cozy space. A chair lay on its side, and a cracked mirror hung crookedly on the wall. My heart sank as I examined the surroundings. Something felt off, wrong, like I was intruding on a moment frozen in time. As I stepped inside, I felt another rush of cold air grazed my skin. I shivered at the icy sensation. When I looked back, the door had swung shut behind me. Panic gripped me. I hurried to the door handle, but it wouldn't budge, as if the room itself was in on whatever game was being played. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw it, a flicker, a shadow moving across the cracked mirror. I turned, heart racing again, but there was nothing there, just the reflection of my own startled face, pale and wide-eyed. "Get out!" The voice cried out again, clearer now.
My heart sank as I realized it was different. Desperate, but distinct from the earlier warnings. It came from nowhere and everywhere. "Who are you?" I shouted into the emptiness. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, nearly drowning out any responses. There was no answer, just the strange feeling that something was watching me from beyond my sight. Frustration bubbled to the surface. I slammed my fist against the mirror. "Why are you doing this?" The tremor of my voice betrayed me, revealing just how frightened I truly was. But then something unexpected happened. The cracked glass shimmered, and the shadows within twisted around, forming a swirling vortex. My breath caught as a face began to appear, a reflection of the same woman. Her eyes locked onto mine, pleading once more, but they also held a flicker of anger. "Help me," she mouthed again, but this time I could almost hear the words softly flowing through the glass. And just like that, the mirror cracked open, the shadows pouring out like a spilled ink. I stumbled back, feeling the room shift around me, the ground rumbling beneath my feet. I needed to decide. Did I step toward her, risking whatever darkness loomed ahead? Or did I wait for whatever might emerge from the shadows? Before I could choose, the lights flickered violently, and a figure stepped through the mirror, enveloped in shadows. I inhaled sharply and froze. Someone was in the room. Everything surged as the darkness surged toward me again. The figure took shape, shadowy and indistinct at first. I squinted, trying to catch any detail, but the darkness twisted around its form, like smoke refusing to condense. My heart raced as I fought against the instinct to run. I had come this far, but what was I stepping into? "Who are you?" I managed to whisper, my voice barely above a tremor. The figure didn't respond right away. Instead, it stepped forward, the shadows swirling more violently around it. In that moment, an air of familiarity washed over me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had seen those eyes before. They gleamed with a sense of desperation, mirroring the same plea I saw in the woman's reflection. "Help," it whispered, a voice like rusted metal scraping against my nerves. I took an involuntary step back, glancing at the still closed door. It felt like my only option to escape, but something rooted me in place. The figure was closer now, and the shadows flared with intensity. Suddenly it reached out, a hand emerging from the darkness, beckoning me forward. "You have to trust me," it said, the words echoing with urgency, mingling with the humming lights above. "She's in danger." Danger. My anger flared again, vying with my fear. "Who are you? Is this some kind of game?" The figure paused, an emotion flickering across its face. "No game. It's a warning,"
You must listen. The mirror binds her. Only you can break it. I took a shaky breath, glancing back at the mirror.
A crack in the glass grew wider, and shadows began to spill out like tendrils reaching for me. It was as if the room itself was alive, feeding off the fear and desperation saturating the air. "What does that even mean?" I asked, my voice faltering. This was all too surreal. How can I help her? "Look into the mirror," the figure insisted, its voice drowning in urgency. "Face the truth. You're part of this." I hesitated, doubt pulling tighter around me. I didn't want to look, didn't want to confront whatever was waiting on the other side. But there was resolve in the figure's eyes, a promise that this was the key to understanding, if only I could summon the courage. I stepped closer to the mirror, and the shadows swirled threateningly, almost screaming for me to turn away. Still, something inside pushed me onward. I couldn't remain a prisoner of this room any longer. As I moved to touch the glass, the temperature dropped sharply. My breath misted the air, and an overwhelming sense of dread filled the room. The figure urged me on, and I closed my eyes, forcing myself to confront the truth, whatever it may be. Then, with a rush of breath, I opened my eyes and gazed into the mirror. What I saw made my stomach drop. That's when I saw it. The woman, trapped within the glass, her expression twisting in turmoil, a silent scream frozen on her lips. The moment I caught sight of her, everything else faded into obscurity. It was as if the rest of the world had vanished, leaving just me and the figure trapped in the mirror. Her eyes, wide with fear, sought mine, and in them I felt a wave of sorrow. I couldn't comprehend what had brought her here, but the urgency of her gaze propelled me forward. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice cracking under the weight of my confusion. The figure next to me in the shadows shifted, almost as if to answer. "She is more than you know. Her past, your past, it's all connected." I turned my attention back to the woman, desperate to uncover her story. I reached out a hand as if I could grasp her through the glass. "What happened to you? How can I save you?" I felt a pull, a need to understand what bound her to this cursed mirror. The figure stepped closer, its presence becoming nearly suffocating. "You need to look deeper," it urged. "Remember who you are." Remember who I was? My mind raced with images of childhood dreams, fragmented memories, and the constant sense of being watched, even when I was alone. I shook my head, trying to ward off whatever truth threatened to surface. "I can't just look deeper," I spat. "What does it even mean?" But before I could receive an answer, the mirror began to shake violently. The crack widened, and the shadows poured from it like ink spilling on paper. The air filled with an unbearable chill, and the woman's scream echoed through my mind, both haunting and pleading. "Do it! You have to face her," the figure insisted, its voice rising in desperation.
I took a step back, panic gripping my heart. I didn't want to confront whatever dark truth lurked in the depths of that mirror. Yet the image of the woman's anguish tugged at my conscience, demanding acknowledgement. Taking a deep breath, I leaned closer, forcing myself to observe every detail. The reflection pulsed, the crack crawling across the glass with a mind of its own. I felt as if something was trying to pull me in, a current dragging me toward the abyss. And then I saw it, a fleeting image of a man standing behind her, a shadowed figure I couldn't quite make out. He smirked, the malevolence in his eyes clear even through the glass. "Stop!" I gasped. "Who is he?" The figure beside me hovered menacingly, its hand trembling in the shadows. "That's the one who created the binding! Time is running out! You must act!" The woman's face twisted with renewed panic as the glass continued to crack. I suddenly realized this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about me. I needed to confront the truth behind her terror and the man who kept her captive. But just as I braced myself to do something, anything, the mirror shattered. Glass exploded outward like a broken dream, and darkness enveloped me. Then everything went dark. I gasped as I surfaced from the darkness. My body felt heavy, and my mind was a whirlwind. Instinctively, I rubbed my eyes, barely making sense of my surroundings. The broken mirror was gone, but something was off. The air was thick, almost suffocating, with an unsettling silence that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. I pushed myself up from the floor, my heart racing. Sunlight filtered through a nearby window, illuminating a small, dust-filled room that seemed both familiar and alien. Framed pictures adorned the walls, but they were mere blurred shapes. I stumbled toward them, squinting. My breath caught.
The face in one of the images was mine. "No," I muttered. "This can't be real." But it was. The picture, me with a woman who looked just like the figure in the mirror. A sense of unease gripped me. How was I connected to her? I needed answers. I pivoted toward the door. It creaked as I opened it, revealing a dim hallway lined with more of those strange photos, each torn, as if someone had clawed at the edges in desperation. My legs moved on instinct, propelling me forward. I reached the end of the hallway and pushed through another door. It led outside, but I was met with an eerie stillness. The yard sprawled before me, wild and overgrown. I stepped out and noticed it, an old wooden shed standing solitary in the corner. The urge to explore it was overwhelming. As I approached, the door swung open on its own, and I hesitated. "Hello?" I called. Silence answered back. Fear danced on the edges of my mind, but the mystery of what lay inside was too great. Mustering my courage, I stepped inside. The darkness swallowed me. The shed smelled of damp wood and something metallic.
I fumbled around, eventually finding a rusting lantern on a shelf. I lifted it, using my phone's flashlight app to check for anything that might offer a clue. Papers littered the floor, both old and worn out. I bent down, sifting through the pages, unearthing a collection of notes. "To free yourself, you must confront him. The binding is stronger than you believe," one note read. My pulse quickened. What binding? My mind raced back to the man in the mirror, his smirk haunting me. Just as I pieced together my thoughts, I heard it. A soft whisper. "Help me." A chill snaked down my spine. I turned sharply, but there was nothing. I stepped backward, breathing heavily. My heart pounded in my chest. "Who is there?" I demanded, but the dark shed answered only with silence. Then the floor creaked behind me. I spun around, eyes wide. Someone was there, hidden in the shadows. "What do you want?" I stammered. My instincts screamed danger, but I stood my ground. In that moment, everything shifted. The whispering returned, louder now, more urgent. It was coming from behind me, spinning me back around. I gasped as I saw the shadows shift, revealing a familiar figure, but it wasn't the woman from the mirror. It was the man. And just like that, I knew he was there for me. The man took a step closer, his features becoming clearer in the dim light. His eyes pierced through the shadows, filled with an unsettling familiarity, yet twisted with something dark. Panic surged through me as I fought to speak. "What do you want from me?" He smiled, but it sent a shiver down my spine. "You know why I'm here." His voice was low, as if each word was a knife slicing through the thick air. I shook my head, gripping the edge of the table behind me. "I don't know anything." I felt desperate, pleading even. "Who are you? Why are you in my head?" He stepped forward again, the dim beam of my phone flickering on his face. I recognized the sharp angles, the twisted smile. He was the reflection I had seen in the mirror, the dark presence. "It's not just you. You're part of something much larger." My breath hitched. I glanced around the shed, searching for an escape. The walls felt like they were closing in. "What do you mean? What is this place?" He chuckled softly, the sound reverberating with a chilling echo in my ears. "A place of forgotten memories, lost souls. You are connected to it all, to her." He gestured behind me, and I turned, half expecting to see the woman, but there was nothing. "Who are you talking about?" I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. "Her name is Eleanor," he said, leaning toward me, his face inches from mine. "She needs you. You need to complete what was started." Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my feet felt rooted to the wooden floor. I thought of the photographs, the blurred faces. "Eleanor, that's not important now." He cut me off, his expression darkening. "What matters is the bond. It's strong, unbreakable."
"You're woven into this tapestry of shadows." I took a step back, trying to make sense of his words. What bond? What tapestry? Suddenly the shed trembled, the shadows around us swirling like a storm. I felt a pull, as if something invisible was tugging at my very essence. The man smirked, feeding off my fear. "You've already begun. There's no stopping now." With a sudden burst of adrenaline, I darted to the door, wrenching it open. The sunlight hit me like an explosion, momentarily blinding. I stumbled into the yard, panic surging through me. I glanced back at the shed, but he was gone. Yet I could feel him, watching, waiting. That's when I noticed it, a shadow moving among the trees just beyond the yard. It looked like the other figure from the mirror, the woman. My heart raced, and I hesitated, feeling the weight of that moment. Was she friend or foe? "Eleanor," I called, but my voice felt small and uncertain.
Then the world around me plunged into darkness once more. The sun vanished behind a thick curtain of clouds, the air heavy with the promise of a storm. And in that deepening gloom, I heard it again, a whisper, faint but clear. "Help me." Now I knew I had little choice. I had to confront whatever lay ahead, whatever I had awakened. I didn't have time to think. The whisper echoed in my mind, urging me forward. I stepped into the woods, the boundary of my yard blurring behind me. My heart raced, and with each step, the branches seemed to reach out, tugging at my clothes as if trying to pull me back. "Eleanor!" I called again, louder this time. I hoped she could hear me. The shadows danced around the trees, thickening as the clouds continued to roll in. The silence was unsettling. I could hear my own breathing, ragged and uneven. I felt exposed, as if the trees were witnesses, judging my every move. Then, through the shifting shadows, I saw her again, a faint silhouette flitting between the trunks. "Wait," I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. She paused, then turned slightly. I could see her face now, pale and searching. There was an almost ethereal glow about her, but her expression was haunting. Her eyes seemed to plead with me, conveying both sadness and urgency. "Please," she whispered. It was barely audible, yet it sent a chill through me. "You must—" Suddenly, a crack of thunder split the sky. Lightning flashed, illuminating the woods for a fleeting moment. In that light, I saw a flicker of the man's face in her reflection. I staggered back, startled. Was he here with her? Eleanor took a step toward me, her silhouette clearer. "You don't have much time." Before I could respond, the ground beneath me began to tremble. I stumbled, losing my balance as the earth groaned. "Eleanor," I called out, but the trees around me seemed to close in. Panic surged again, and I felt the constraining grip of fear returning. Then I caught a glimpse of movement. Something was emerging from the shadows behind her.
My breath caught in my throat as I realized it wasn't just my fear playing tricks on me. A dark shape lurked, growing larger. It was the man, sliding from behind the trees, a predatory smile etched on his face. "Did you really think you could escape?" he taunted, his voice dripping with malice. I felt the weight of dread wash over me, and in that moment my instinct screamed to flee. But Eleanor raised a hand, stopping me. "You have to trust me," she said desperately. She looked back at him, her gaze steady, even as fear flickered in her eyes. "You're stronger than him." "Stronger?" I repeated incredulously. "He knows me. I don't know anything about any bond or tapestry." Her face softened with acknowledgement. "You do know. It's been with you all along," she urged, drawing closer. "You must remember." In that instant, a wave of images flashed in my mind, moments I hadn't thought about in years. A little girl, her laughter echoing, a warm embrace, an argument, a sudden pang of loss, a bridge, a name, Eleanor. My knees felt weak, and I stumbled forward, confusion and clarity battling within me. The man took another step closer, an intimidating force. "You will regret this," he hissed, shifting into a stance. Then, before I could fully process what I was doing, I moved towards Eleanor, my resolve hardening. I wouldn't run. Whatever I had awakened needed to be faced. The figures I had seen in my dreams, the fragments of memory, they all rushed back like an unstoppable tide. "Stop," I shouted, and to my surprise the command resonated in the air. The shadows flickered as if disturbed by my defiance. Eleanor's eyes sparkled with hope. "That's it! Remember!" But just as the darkness seemed to retreat, the ground shook violently again. I was thrust into chaos, the world spinning as branches cracked and thunder roared. It felt like everything was collapsing around us. Then everything went dark, and the whisper faded into silence. I couldn't see or hear, but I felt an unshakable certainty that I was standing at the edge of something vast and terrifying. What had I awakened? I woke up on damp grass, the smell of earth enveloping me, as if emerging from a long sleep. Blinking against the bright sunlight, I felt disoriented but unafraid. A curious sense of calm washed over me. The chaos of the storm had vanished, replaced by a serene landscape that stretched wide before me. As I regained my bearings, I noticed I was lying in a clearing, surrounded by trees that swayed gently in a light breeze. The whispers of the past echoed faintly in my ears, distant shadows of fear, but no longer tangible. Where was the man, the grotesque figure with the malice in his eyes? I glanced left and right. Nothing seemed amiss.
yet dread lingered like a dark cloud on my mind. Then I spotted her, Eleanor, standing a few paces away. She was bathed in sunlight, her silhouette soft and glowing against the backdrop of woodland. For a moment I couldn't move, entranced by her presence.
"Eleanor," I breathed, heart racing once more. She turned to me, and the urgency returned to her face. "You came," she said, voice steady but laced with underlying tension. "You remembered." I hesitated. But what happened to him? To us? The questions spilled from my lips before I could process them fully. I felt so close. I thought I understood it all. A flicker of sadness crossed her features. "You touched something ancient here, and that bond, the one he's kept, had to be severed. The echoes of memories bleed into this world, and he feeds off them." Suddenly, the shadows surrounding us shifted slightly, and my heart dropped. "What do you mean, feeds off them?" "Trapped," she said, gaze distant. "But not gone. He will return if we don't act fast." A chill ran down my spine at her words. The connection we shared, the memories flooding back, had a weight to them, a gravity that pulled me into the depths of my own history. "What do I need to do?" I pressed, feeling determination take root. "Confront him. It's the only way to break the binding." Her eyes bore into mine, and I could see her desperation mirrored in my own. "You've had this power all along. You're stronger than he is." The certainty of her gaze compelled me, but fear lurked in the recesses of my mind. "What if I fail?" She approached, her presence comforting yet fierce. "You won't. Remember what binds you to him, the truth of your past, and the love we lost. That will guide you." Suddenly, the air thickened. A rustle echoed through the trees, and the sunlight dimmed as a shadow fell over the clearing. It wasn't just the clouds casting their gloom. My breath caught as the man emerged again, his form solidifying amidst the trees, a wraith-like figure tightening around my heart with dread. "Back again?" he sneered, his voice a low growl. The confidence that radiated from him sent shivers down my spine. "You think you can win?" "I'm not afraid of you." My voice rang out strong, but inside I quaked. "You don't belong here." The shadows pulled closer, crawling toward me, feeding on my doubt and fear. But as I stood, grounding myself in the memory of Eleanor's face, the strength within started to unfurl. "You'll never have the power over me again," I declared, my heart racing with defiance. "Foolish girl," he spat, darkness swirling around him like a tempest, growing ever larger. "You can't escape." And then it came to me. The memories, the joy, the laughter, the connections he had tried to strip from me. "Eleanor," I called, recalling everything I felt, her warmth, our bond, together. In an instant, the illumination returned, swirling around us, as the roots of our connection tangled with the shadows, forging an ascent of light. I could feel her essence mingling with mine, familiar and grounding. The whispers started to fade. "It's time to release the bond," urged Eleanor. With a surge of power, I reached my hands forward, feeling the warmth tingle in my palms.
I had what I needed. The shadows recoiled, sensing our unity. "Your time is over." Just as I spoke the words, a pulse of energy shot through me, breaking through the lingering darkness, the light swallowing it whole. The man's face contorted in rage, but as the shadows dissipated, I caught the hint of panic in his expression. The air crackled, and light engulfed us, illuminating the space in a brilliant hue. The man's form distorted, contorting into a shriek, then imploding like smoke caught in the wind. I felt a rush of liberation, my spirit soaring alongside Eleanor's essence. And then the brightness subsided. I blinked, expecting to confront the remnants of my fears, but the clearing remained untouched, the serenity around me untouched, sacred. What now?" I murmured, breathless with exhilaration. Eleanor's smile softened. "Now we move forward. You're free." I couldn't quell my unease. "But what about the memories, the bond? Will we ever truly sever the ties?" Her expression wavered, a hint of melancholy flashing across her eyes. "Some bonds linger, and some truths leave scars. Perhaps they are meant to guide us rather than bind us." I nodded slowly, processing the weight of her words. The whisper still echoed faintly in my mind, a reminder of all I'd faced. There was lingering uncertainty in my heart, questions I'd never fully grasped, but perhaps that was part of the journey.
I laid a hand over my heart, feeling empowered yet aware. To move on doesn't always mean to forget. Life continues weaving its tapestry, blending light and shadow. As I turned to walk back through the shade of the woods, I caught one last glimpse of Eleanor, a luminous figure now fading into the expanse of the trees. I knew I would carry her memory with me, a torch lighting the way as I faced the unknown. Some answers may never come. The mystery may linger. But perhaps in the dance of shadows and light, I had finally begun to discover my own truth. And I stepped forward, ready to embrace it all.